Right, chapter 15. So we're getting there. We've seen development with friendships, taking a stand against Elle, developing a close bond with Izzy. And we've also seen there's a mystery that she thinks she needs to solve back in Kuwait. The bedroom at the top of the house, which appears to have her adult mother in. Let's see if she goes back to Kuwait in this chapter. Look at this, Matty whispers to David next to me. That's hilarious, David says in a robot voice. Spotty Lottie, Matty adds smugly, obviously pleased with the rhyme he's made up. My stomach lurches. They're talking about Charlotte Baker, and by the sound of it, what they have to say isn't very nice. I watched them for a while unnoticed. They've basically spent our ICT lesson taking photos of people and laughing at them. Matty's even had little red splashes coming out of Scarlet's spots to look like lava on a volcano. Nice. Matty catches me looking and raises his eyebrows. Want to have a look, he says, shoving his phone towards me. I turn away and shake my head. You're in there somewhere, Dobby. He adds the last bit so quietly I can pretend not to have heard. I ignore him, but I can't ignore the jolts of electricity going through my stomach. Matty laughs in my face and crosses the room to some of the other boys, including Johnny. I hear a ripple of laughter rising and falling, like notes on a glockenspiel. David stays in his seat. I can feel his eyes on me. Eventually I turn to face him. He rubs the back of his neck. He takes a breath and starts again. I just wanted to say I heard about your mum and I hope you're okay. My dad was ill last year. He smiles awkwardly at me, like he's embarrassed. Really, I ask? I'm sorry. I'm just as bad at this sort of thing as he is. Is he okay now? David's face lights up. Yeah, he is, he pauses. And your mum will be too, I bet. I nod. I hope so, I think. Back to your seat, please, Matty, Mr. Mitchell says, interrupting our conversation. Or do you want a detention? The room falls silent and everyone turns to stare at Matty. Like you lot would. I cross my fingers, hoping he'll get in trouble. Sorry, sir, Matty responds, shooting him a winning smile. I was just asking Johnny a question about the work. That's okay, Mr. Mitchell says, softening like butter. Just make sure you come to me next time, Mr. Mitchell. I'd see right through that. He turns away and my jaw drops. I can't believe he fell for that. Matty returns to his seat and shows David another one of his victims. I feel angry. My insides burn on the outside. My insides burning, but on the outside all I do is freeze, because I'm a massive coward. So instead I get my revenge the only way I know how. I imagine Matty and Johnny as wizards in fairy hunters, and I'm the most powerful fairy around. I use all my best spells and defeat them both. I start with a stun, followed by fairy dust blast, and finally transform them both into weasels. By the end of the lesson I'm almost smiling, but sometimes I wish I could be as brave in the real world as I am in my games. When I get home from school, Dad's already back from work. I can smell cooking and my nose follows it to the kitchen, like Hansel and Gretel and the breadcrumb trail. I burst out laughing when I see Dad. Why are you wearing a flowery pink and green apron, I ask. Dad turns to me. I don't want to get any sauce on my shirt, he explains. Anyway, what's wrong with my apron? Nothing, I say with a shrug. By the way, Dad says, and as I take a seat at the kitchen table, what have you done with the cats? What? I imagine for a moment that all the cats in the world have disappeared, and Dad is blaming me for it. Treats, Dad says, which doesn't really explain what he means, but I understand. Oh, I don't really know how to explain this. Dad stirs the sauce and pasta and sits down across from me. Is it because of your mum? Dad stirs... My insides turn to dust. He must know about the dreams. I don't want him for some reason. I like that it's just between Mum and me. I don't know what you're talking about, I say confidently. On TV, whenever the police questions anyone, they always deny it. So that's what I plan to do. Did I ever tell you the story behind them? I frown. Now I'm confused. About what? The cats. Dad sighs like it's the most obvious thing in the world. The thing about Dad and me is that we don't talk much. So sometimes our conversations don't go anywhere. If Mum were here right now, she would say something like, oh, for goodness sake. You two speak in full sentences. Your father is trying to tell you a story. She would explain to me, rolling her eyes at him. but she would be grinning too, because as much as she moaned at us, she loved us. It was the first present your mother ever gave me, Dad explains. She decided that what we were going to do on our first date. Of course, I think. Classic mum, and suddenly I miss her so much it hurts. She wanted to paint ceramic pots and turned it into a competition. She won, of course. I picked a boring old bowl and painted it plain blue. Dad's eyes crease as he looks back into the half-remembered past. When your mum found a pot with 2 cats on it, she started jumping up and down excitedly. She always had a way of making even the most normal things fun and magical. I watched Dad spellbound. I'd never really heard any of his stories about Mum before, but I realise now I want to know everything about her. I want to fill my mind with her stories, swim in her past, and fly through the future with her. When she finished, I asked her why she picked that pot in particular, and she told me that when she was a child, there were these 2 cats that lived near her house. She said they led to a magical hideaway where she used to meet with her best friend. Dad laughs. Your mum was always telling stories like that, as if her life was some great big adventure. I never knew which were real and which weren't, but I always enjoyed being a part of them. The magical hideaway is real, I want to say. It is. I realise in that moment that I believe it is, and the missing piece slots into place. These aren't dreams I'm having. They're memories, and they're of Mum's life when she was my age. Suddenly, I want to watch them all, to know everything I can about Mum. I just need to get through that door. As Dad carries on cooking, my mind drifts back to his story, and I think about how happy they once were. Dad, I say when he starts serving our food. Yes, why did you and Mum split up if you loved her so much? Dad's face drops and he turns away. It's not that simple, Saf. And I can tell from his voice he doesn't want to say any more, but that's okay. Dad has his secrets with Mum, just like I do. Another chapter finished, and I really feel like we're getting into this essence of the story. I know you've enjoyed it, but I've actually, as a reader, found this harder to get into. But I'm really encapsulated in Saf's story now. I really think Aisha Bushby has put together a really cleverly crafted story here. And although I keep being desperate for chapters in Kuwait, I like the in-between bits too as well now. They're almost like a giant puzzle, and we're getting a little piece each chapter. Let's see what we get in chapter 16.